Hey everyone, James Lynch here doing a quick reaction video to the news that we have a couple middleweight fights added to UFC 326. This courtesy of journalist Leo Walker Guarmez, who, if you're not following him, great follow. He's been breaking a lot of news lately, so go check him out here. He says, I was able to confirm, this is via translator, that Caio Borralho is preparing to face Reiner de Ritter at UFC 326. And then the other fight we got added on here as well was the Paulo Costa and Bruno Ferreira fight. So a couple big middleweight matchups here. I like both these fights. I think they make sense. The only guys I kind of wonder about right now, what's going on with Israel Adesanya, what's going on with Dricus du Plessis, what's going on with Brendan Allen, and what's going on with Robert Whittaker. So we are sort of slowly putting together the puzzle that is middleweight right now. Of course, big fight coming up here with Anthony Hernandez and Sean Strickland. So that's two names out of the equation here. But, I like this fight. Two fighters coming off losses. Borralho coming off the loss to Nasruddin Imavov. Reiner de Ritter coming off the loss to Brendan Allen at UFC Vancouver. So we'll start with this fight first. Quick tale of the tape between these two. Caio's 32 years old, 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. He's taking on de Ritter, who is 35 years old, so a little bit older, 3 years older. Also going to be taller at 6'4", and he'll have a 78-inch reach. So de Ritter going to be a little bit bigger in this spot. And I mentioned it there. Borralho coming off the loss to Nasruddin Imavov. That was the first loss he had in the UFC. Prior to that, a couple nice wins here. Jared Cannonier finished Paul Craig, Abus Magomedov. Again, we'll see if he's able to avoid back-to-back losses for the first time in his career. That Imavov fight sort of showed he's not quite there yet, but beating a guy like de Ritter would certainly put him back in the driver's seat here. So that'll be interesting. By the looks of it, well, I'm assuming this is 3 rounds, so won't have to worry about de Ritter in the later rounds. We know that was an issue against Brendan Allen. Couldn't put him out early. And de Ritter, same thing, coming off a couple good wins prior to the Brendan Allen loss. Robert Whittaker getting a split decision win there. And most famously, the Bo Nickel win, which is where he absolutely just destroyed Bo Nickel. Looked like two fighters that weren't even in the same sort of stratosphere there as far as that fight goes. So, yeah, pretty interesting fight in that division. And then you've got Paulo Costa, who, of course, rebounded in his last fight over Roman Coppola. Pretty dominant decision in that one back in July. So good to see Paulo back in action because he's been a little bit inactive, right? Only fought the one time in 2025, 2 fights in 2024, and then hadn't fought since 2022. So good to see him active here, like I said. And you look at some of the losses here, some pretty good opposition other than maybe Marvin Vettori, but Strickland and Whittaker, those are two of the guys that are near the top of the middleweight division. Bruno Ferreira sort of had his coming out party in his last fight, not finishing, but pretty good win there over Marvin Vettori. Prior to that, a couple wins over Jackson McVeigh. Armin Petrosian did get finished by Abus Magomedov, and then a couple of opponents like Phil Hawes, who isn't in the UFC anymore. So he's had a little bit of a tough time kind of finding his footing as far as consistency, although he does have a win over Gregory Rodriguez, which has aged quite well back in 2023. But a good name, probably, definitely the biggest name on his resume that he'll be fighting at this point, fighting Paulo Costa. So we'll see if he's able to get it done there. Doing the tail of the tape on this one, 34 compared to 33, so not a big age gap there. 6'1" with a 72-inch reach. 5'10" with a 72-inch reach, so Costa's going to be a little bit taller. And then in terms of experience, Paulo Costa's fought far better opposition here at 15-4. Bruno Ferreira, 15-2, so similar amount of fights, but the opposition there you can see, well, actually, maybe it's a little bit comparable. I mean, Rodriguez and Vettori, well, actually, no, not really. Ruziabov kind of bouncing around weight classes, although he's seems to be a mainstay now at middleweight. So, yeah, you look at who Costa's fought, pretty much good opposition, even dating back to, the Romero fight, Rich. Was a win that is, pretty good win for him there. The Luke Rockhold win as well. So we'll see how things go. The thing with Costa that I look at in a lot of his fights, he's a tough guy to take out. Adesanya is the only guy that's been able to finish him. So if you're Bruno Ferreira and he wasn't able to finish Marvin Vettori, and again, Vettori, maybe the most durable guy in the weight class, tough to finish there as well. Is he going to be able to finish, Paulo Costa? I don't think so. And again, Costa not on the decline right now. That's kind of interesting there too. He did miss weight in his last fight. I forgot about that. Came in at 189, although Paulo Costa seems like his weight cut issues are behind him. Remember that whole debacle with Vettori where, during fight week, he's like, oh yeah, well, let's just make the 205. So as far as the pick goes, I might actually lean Costa here just a little bit based off experience. Again, they're kind of similar as far as the, the records, the height and the reach, all that stuff. But I feel like Costa's last performance kind of showed he's back a little bit. We'll see. But saying that, Bruno Ferreira, was really impressed with his win over Marvin Vettori. Give a slight edge there to Costa, but I'm leaning sort of Costa decision on this one as far as an early pick. And then on this fight, I like Caio Borralho a lot in this one because, again, I don't think de Ritter's got some good striking. We saw a very good display of that against Robert Whittaker, but Borralho's a tricky character. He's tough to take out. I like some of the things I saw even in that loss with Imavov. Does have the win over Jared Cannonier as well. Almost finished Cannonier in that fight too. So slightly into Borralho just because a little bit younger. The question is can he deal with the height and reach? But kind of leaning Borralho decision in this one too. We'll have to see how it goes. Again, 3 rounds certainly favors De Ridder. We have seen him more often than not go out there and get a finish within 3 rounds. So that's possible as well. But you're fighting a guy who, again, has never been finished. So I lean slightly Borralho on this one. But this is a fight I'll definitely preview a little bit more an early look. But getting back to the overall landscape of the middleweight division, it's a little bit interesting right now. And I'm sure we're going to get more fight announcements coming up here soon. But like, what's going on with Dricus? Like, now that you've eliminated a couple of opponents here, I think Brendan Allen's the obvious fight, right? Like, who else should he fight unless they want to do a rematch with Adesanya? But I mean, that fight happened, in 2024, I think. So no real reason to do that. So you could do Duplessis and Allen, and then who does Adesanya fight? Like, again, you're kind of running out of options. Nobody wants to see a rematch with Jared Cannonier. I think Michael Venom Page is now at welterweight, right, is my understanding, unless he sticks around, although MVP and Adesanya would be fun. And then there's like, maybe like a Roman Dolidze. He could stick around. Or maybe you give Joe Pyfer that step up and he faces a guy like Adesanya at this point as they try to build up Pyfer. So I don't know, but we haven't heard much from Adesanya at all. And they start to keep booking these guys up. So I think, yeah, like I said, I think if we're kind of playing the, the role of elimination here, I think Duplessis and Allen's the fight to make, unless you go Adesanya, Allen, and then you go but then Duplessis got to fight really far down. So no, I think Allen Duplessis is the fight to make. And then after that, you do Adesanya and I don't want to see him. Do we want to see him fight Whitaker for a 3rd time? No, because he beat him twice, right? So I know the second fight was much closer. Yeah, I think you do Dolidze and or you do Dolidze Whitaker. Again, there's a lot of different options here, but again, if you're eliminating these two from the equation here in Borralho and De Ridder, then it's not leaving you a lot of options here. So maybe I would go Duplessis and Allen. I think there's a bit of a grudge match there. Interesting fight, especially, and that should be like a 5-round fight in my opinion. That would be interesting. And then maybe do Adesanya and Dolidze just as like a bounce back fight. I don't know. Or like I said, if the UFC wants to build up their prospects, give Joe Pyfer Adesanya. I think that would be fun too. So again, they don't follow the rankings here. So people are complaining about the rankings. They don't care, right? I mean, we've seen this already with some of the recent matchmaking. It doesn't seem to matter here. But yeah, I mean, I think these fights are fine. Like, they're not like, I got to watch both these fights like must-see TV. But I think it's some decent matchmaking here. Would have been interested to see Borralho and Adesanya. That was one I was kind of curious about, just again, because of the durability factor of Borralho, but we'll have to see what happens. So again, a couple fights added to 326. And before we get out of here, just a quick look at that card so far. That's coming up in March 7th in Vegas. So that's the Holloway Oliveira too. They're adding some good names on here, right? Moicano and Ortega, Oliveira and Holloway. I like the looks of this so far, right? You got to get a couple notable names on a pay-per-view like this. So that's totally cool with me as far as the matchups go. So yeah, a couple big fights there added. And again, go follow Leo on Twitter. Very good follow there. So let me know what you think of these matchups in the comment section below. Were these the fight to make? Were both of these fights the fights to make? And what's your early prediction on these ones? Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you next time.